Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Axon Bulletin. It's Tuesday afternoon. It's myself taking the convo, joined by Natasha Meikle and Patrick McGilp. I think we should maybe call this the passport episode, or the kind of holiday travellers episode, as the three of us seem to be in and out the country. But here we are. It's Tuesday. We're all in Scotland. I think we're all in Scotland. Patrick, you and I were over in Ireland for the football at the weekend. Do you want to give us a wee bit of rundown on it? Because I'd rather you do it than me.
Aye, obviously the result was a bit of a disappointment, but we had 5 great days in Dublin. You know, Guinness Factory on the Thursday, Glasnevin on the Friday, Gravediggers, the famous Gravediggers, John Kavanagh's pub. Saturday, Kilmainham Jail, followed by the disappointment of Scotland losing 3-0. I suppose if they're going to lose 3-0, you know, as we said before the show, you prefer it to be Ireland, personally anyway. And then Sunday we said we'd take it easy, but compared to the rest of the holiday, we took it easy and then home yesterday. So, great time.
Yeah, me and you never really take it easy when we start in the old Guinness, do we? But no, we had a great time. And as you say, it was nice to see a couple of Celtic players in action on Saturday in the flesh once again, because I think we're all missing the football a bit. But just a pity that they were on the receiving end. And we got to, I mean, you eventually get to see Shane Duffy in the flesh, and what a performance he had. He nearly laid on 2 goals for Scotland, but by the end of the game he was looking like Big Beckenbauer at the back for the Republic of Ireland. But yep, still a long way to go in that group, but it's not looking too good for the Old Nations League for Scotland at this point in time. Natasha, you were also on your travels to Georgios Giacomakis' homeland. Did you have a nice time?
I did, yes, it was lovely. Really great trip. We were in Santorini and Mykonos. So if anyone is looking for some Greek island recommendations, I can certainly recommend those two. It was lovely. Nice weather, nice food, nice cocktails, good time. Plenty of sunshine. And yeah, nice to get some holidays in while we have no football to be enjoying. Certainly no Celtic football. Anyway.
Well, good stuff. Hopefully we're planning plenty of holidays with Celtic in Europe this season, because we'll get that golden tickets to the Champions League. But anyway, since we've been last on, there's been a good bit happening. I think the one obviously is our tagline is about CCV. You know, we now know he's a Celtic player for definite. We're going to see him in the hoops next season. The hoops that we don't know what they're going to look like yet, but we know he's going to be in that pinstripe effort away kit. Patrick, what's your take on that one? I think it's quite nice. I'm just a wee bit disappointed it doesn't go around the back, the stripes, but I think I even like the lettering in the back as a kind of nod to the old retro front door at Celtic Park. What's your take on the away kit?
Yeah, just sort of what you said. I was a bit disappointed when it first came out, but it has grown on me. Just about every kit is the same with me. I'm a bit hesitant to start with, but the old black in the back, you know, we have to make it that way for Europe anyway. So you're as well doing it for the whole season. I think it's a belter. The front in particular, you know, the crest as well. It's sort of sitting on a badge of its own. I really, really like it. And as you say, the sort of broken Celtic lettering from the old door outside the front of Celtic Park, magic.
Yeah, absolutely nice. Natasha, I think you're like me. I think any Celtic Adidas stuff comes out, you probably go along to the shop and buy it. It's a nice kit, isn't it?
Yeah, it's lovely. Of course, already on the pre-order. Look forward to getting that one. Sponsorless, I think, is going to look really great. That's what I went with. I usually do with my kits. Usually get them sponsorless, so got it on pre-order. And yeah, I think it's going to be a good one. You can't go wrong with black. I think black always works. And I know I probably agree with people about the back. The pinstripe should have continued. I get why it's not, but yeah, a really good effort from Adidas, and they very rarely have steered us wrong, have they? Usually a fan of the Adidas stuff, I say, as I am sitting in an Adidas top, but yeah, the Adidas stuff's been class, so I think it's another good one. Look forward to seeing what they're going to do with the home kit. I mean, there's not really too much variations on the hoops that you can do. I believe there's rumours of it having a little bit of silver in it this time, maybe on the shoulders, but we shall see. I look forward to it.
Yeah, I think there's some people been saying that the bags that you've been getting recently, the Celtic shop, is going to have that kind of design in it, a wee bit kind of 88 centenary style, but we shall wait and see what it looks like. As you say there, Natasha, the black kit they had their first season with is just a pity we didn't get very good results in it, although, you know, it did save us that 3-1 victory at Easter Road we played in it, which kind of gave that kit a bit of justice. So we'll see how they get on with their next efforts. Also saw a really nice wee link. Kerry Keenan had tweeted it out on Twitter the boy that actually designed the kit, grew up in the 90s, had that kit as a young Celtic fan, and there he was, designing this new kit for Celtic, a real full circle moment, and I'm sure something that he's very, very proud about. But anyway, enough about Celtic kits. That's usually Paul Jones' gig anyway. And I know obviously he's got a book coming out, which I'm getting the pre-order too, because I do like the history of the Celtic kits. But back to Cameron Carter-Vickers. Patrick, you and I were, where were we on Friday? Just came back from Gravediggers pub, back in the hotel room, about to head out for our dinner. Then off to O'Donoghue's pub, the famous home of the Dubliners. The news came through. We were absolutely delighted.
We were, went out celebrating, didn't we?
Sure did.
You weren't going to have a drink otherwise, is that right? You're going to have a quiet one, no drinks to be had.
A few waters or something, yeah.
You had to.
Aye. Phenomenal news. I think it was just before 6:30. I think, the chat for weeks has been all about Jota. And so for that to sort of come out, well, not out of nowhere, we're all expecting him to sign, I think. But, in the weeks building up to it, it's been all Jota to announce CCV. Brilliant. I think early in the season, we were saying he was probably the more important of the signings, and then Jota had a really good end to the season. So, with the Champions League money, you want to get both of them over the line, and I think we will. But to get one of them in the door so early, I mean, what was that, the 10th of June, the 9th of June or something? Fantastic business. 6 rising to possibly 10 with add-ons. So at least we know that Celtic are serious this window. I'm glad that they are. I thought that they would be. And it's good to see that they're back in Ange.
Yeah, Natasha, there's been a lot of chat, obviously, around Jota, Cameron Carter-Vickers. Friday was the day that the transfer window opened officially. I know you've said in the podcast before, and I've been in total agreement, that it probably wasn't the right time to be, doing deals where we were trying to get that league title over the line, but we've certainly not hung about here with Cameron Carter-Vickers. He's obviously known this was going to happen because we've seen him in the away kit, meaning that he was, probably in a done deal. I think that away kit shoot was the morning after we clinched the league at Tannadice, so his future was already going to be at Celtic Park. He's kept that on the download, but it's a really big signing, I think, for Celtic, and he's been so crucial. I think it's almost, crazy to, remember that he came in on the very last day in August last year, along with Giacomakis and Jota, and where would we have been without those 3 players last season?
Oh, absolutely. And I think it's a good statement of intent. There's no messing around. We're just going to get these players tied down. If I'm honest, I think I was probably expecting Jota to come before Carter-Vickers. I think if I had to put money on one of them staying, I would have been more likely to assume that Jota would be the one to stay. I was a little bit on the fence about whether Carter-Vickers would. I obviously thought it was massively important to next season that we do keep that continuity at the back, that partnership with him and Starfelt, get him tied down to a deal. Of course, I wanted it, but slightly on the fence about whether he would. I know there was that interest in England, which can obviously turn players' heads. I know his agent, has maybe been trying to push him elsewhere. So I was actually quite pleasantly surprised when that one was done so quickly, and delighted that he has chosen to stay. Like you said, he already had done the modelling in the new kit. I believe his interview that Celtic released was filmed before he went on holiday with some of the boys. So this has been done for a while, which is actually quite comforting. So while we were all out here speculating about, had his head been turned, where was he going, was it England, was it this, Cameron himself was relaxing in Ibiza, knowing that his deal was done and that his future would be at Celtic. So I think that's a nice thing. It's nice that we've managed to get it done quickly, and it's nice that Cameron wanted to stay and was quite happy to get that deal tied up quickly as well. And I think we get him tied down. We're going to come on to talk about some of the other players that we could be bringing in, but the next one surely has to be Jota. And of course, there's been holidays. I know Jota's been in America. We've seen him playing football with people over there in the Celtic kit, which very much looks like a man who wants to stay at Celtic. But it would be nice to get that announcement out soon.
Yeah, maybe just wait for that home top to drop. It seemed quite fitting that the away top came out. We get everybody jumped on with the pre-orders, and then later on that day, there's the big man in the away top. So maybe we might see Jota as the breaking news whenever that home top drops. I agree with what you're saying there, Natasha. I think Brown Warrior and a lot of Celtic fans probably are in agreement there. That interest from Newcastle and other clubs down the south was a bit of a worry. There was also the other side of that being out at so many clubs on loan he'd found the home at Celtic. I think that was really, really important for him as a player and a person. And a lot of the stuff we'll probably come on to coming out, especially in Matt O'Reilly's recent interview, talking about Ange and his relationships within the dressing room. Everything just sounds great in there. But Patrick, as Natasha says there, big man was off Sunday selling Ibiza. Me and you saw a lot of bunnets when we were in Dublin. Jota likes a bunnet. He had one on that flight when he was going out with Carol Starfelt out there. Surely, if one's in the door, it's also a good sign that, anything holding Jota back, looking at Vickers, pen and paper, on a good deal, it really shouldn't make Jota hesitant to come to Celtic.
Yeah, he was out there in Ibiza, wasn't he, with Carter-Vickers? So they're
After
obviously relatively
an
close.
unhealthy flight journey.
Aye, well, I remember that one. I mean, it bodes well, doesn't it? And that Matt O'Reilly interview, I'm sure we've all seen it on Twitter, certainly snippets of it anyway. He says he can sit down for lunch with anyone, whereas in other clubs that doesn't happen. There's sort of cliques and friendships and stuff. And it's good to know that the dressing room's so united and everyone's sort of like pally with each other. But I mean, I think we all think here that, Jota will sign. We hope he'll sign. He seems to be enjoying himself, as you say. He's playing football abroad with a Celtic top on. That can only be a good sign. And looking forward to him modelling the hoops when that eventually comes out, because I'm hoping that's going to be a trend where we announce new signings along with new kits.
Yeah, that would be very, very nice. And I think, for Celtic's pocket, it would also be very nice, because I'm sure when other folks seen Vickers in that away top, if they hadn't already pre-ordered it, I think that would make a few people move to do it. But, Patrick, as you say there, this is from this Matt O'Reilly interview. He says there's usually quite a lot of cliques, but at Celtic, I feel like it could be sat at a dinner table with any of them and have a good time, which is cool. We also went on to say I've already genuinely got a good few of my best mates at the club, which is pretty cool. I hang around with Carol, Anthony Ralston, Josip. But then again, I honestly probably hang out with half the team, which shows enough about our culture. I also went on to speak about when Ange speaks, everyone listens. So it all sounds very positive in there. It all sounds very good. And I think if there's any doubt in Jota's mind about signing for Celtic, everything is in place for him to be our player. So I'm trying to keep the positivity going. We've got one in the door. Hopefully he's the one to follow. Whether that's modelling the new home kit or not, we shall see. But Natasha, one person who we've been linked with very recently is Vinicius Souza. The Brazilian has been playing out in Belgium, I think. But what's your take on this one? We saw Anthony Joseph come out with a tweet last week saying that Celtic were on the lookout for a defensive midfielder. Do you think that's going to be a position that we're definitely going to look to strengthen?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's probably one of the key positions. I think a lot of the fans are more likely to have pointed to left back, perhaps, as one of the positions we wanted to strengthen. But I think a lot of the sounds Ange was making, and if you listen to a lot of what he was saying towards the end of last season, I think his key position was actually that defensive midfield. I don't think we really have anyone suitable to playing in that system. And if you do have someone in that position, that allows McGregor to move slightly further forward. And I think we get the most out of McGregor when he does push up slightly. But the problem right now is that we don't really have anyone in that defensive midfield position, particularly now that Nir Bitton has left the club. So I think it's important that we do get someone in that role. A lot of people suggested that it might be Ideguchi, but haven't seen enough of him really to make the call about whether that can be his sort of role or not. It certainly isn't going to be someone like Soros. I think he's too far out the picture for that.
Maybe going to Cyprus, we never know. Hopefully Milena might do as a turn with
that. So I don't think we've got anyone naturally fitting there at the moment, and I think it would really suit Ange's setup and the way he likes to play if we did have that sort of player there. So in terms of Souza, to be honest, like probably many of the fans don't know a lot about him, haven't seen him, particularly play other than the clips that we've seen since we've been linked to him. But unlike previous transfer windows, perhaps, I do have a lot of confidence in Ange and the setup that they will bring in the right players. I think you just have to look at their track record in January and then before that. I can't really point to a signing of, Ange's that I think hasn't quite worked out. Maybe James McCarthy, maybe Liam Scales, but I don't know how much we can attribute either of them to be Ange Postecoglou signings. But in general, the players that Ange likes, that he wants, really do work and fit a system. So if he thinks that this is the player that he needs in to play in that role, then I'm excited about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And, the two that you mentioned there, didn't play a big part of the season, but they've had, skills popped up with that goal at Tannadice. Yes, it sealed the deal, but he's came in, he's played some game time. McCarthy, I thought, played very well on Boxing Day. They've had their wee part. Yeah, they've not been, massive additions to the team, but as you say, you can't really point to any specific Ange Postecoglou signings and say any of them failed. So anybody that you're getting linked with just now, you're pretty confident that, they'd probably be a good fit at the club and they would slot in quite nicely. Patrick, you said to me, this boy's a really good player, 22-year-old. What was your take on this? Is this a really key position, especially looking at Champions League, where we need somebody in there? Just because I think with the way we play, although Callum McGregor plays that role very well, I think a lot of Celtic fans, and possibly Ange Postecoglou, might like to see him just drift forward that wee bit, or even look to play two holders a wee bit more in the Champions League.
Yeah, I'm basing that totally on it's a graph from an account called Boys Analytics on Twitter, who, you can see, I think we all know who Boys Analytics are. It's like a circle, and then you've got McGregor in red and De Souza in blue. And in terms of defensive statistics, De Souza's just this absolute monster, whereas you can see sort of McGregor makes Callum McGregor look like a bad player when we know he isn't. But defensively, this De Souza guy just brings so much more to the team in comparison. And you see, it's not really McGregor's game to sort of, I mean, he can do it, he can stick in, but it's all about sort of controlling the tempo and sort of opening the channels up and finding players in forward positions. That's sort of what McGregor's good at. This De Souza guy apparently is sort of off the charts good at sort of breaking up play, interceptions, just all the defensive jobs that we would need at the top level. We've not really had someone like that, in my opinion, since, Wanyama. Brown reached those levels every couple of seasons, but we've not had a player like that since Wanyama. And, as you say, it leaves the squad in a healthy but a bit strange position, because, you've brought Ideguchi in, and we keep on saying every week that we've not done that by accident. We've definitely brought him in for some reason, but looking to sign another defensive midfielder, you're leaving yourself with two great players in every position, which is good, but it's just a matter of how you keep all those players happy.
Yeah, absolutely. And Brown Warriors came in here to say that you don't have to move McGregor forward up the park to bring a defensive midfielder. All you need to do is to go from a single pivot to a double pivot with a 10 in front, as you had with Brown and McGregor under Rodgers and Lenny. Absolutely. I think that was why Olivier Cham was such an important signing for Brendan Rodgers coming into that 17-18 season. Just a pity we didn't really add anybody else in, which was one of our downfalls in that Champions League campaign. After that, Dominic's come in here to say he thinks I'm still getting hydrated after the weekend. Dublin, you can absolutely bang on. Yep.
It'll take a lot longer than this to hydrate the two of you after that.
Terrible. Patrick's a terrible influence in me. Yeah, everything sounds good at this point in time, and I think Souza, whether he's going to play in there himself, whether he's going to play in a double pivot, as Brown Warrior said in the comments, it's interesting to know. But as you say, Natasha, we've got absolute faith in Ange Postecoglou that he will bring in players that will suit him, suit the club, suit his style of football. And again, we've already strengthened in that department, bringing in Matt Lowell to head up recruitment. We're making these moves and we're not stopping, as Ange famously, of course, says. But we aren't stopping, and we're strengthening departments, we're strengthening as a football club as we go forward, and everything bodes well going into this season, which is great. We're quite chilled out about that. But yeah, on Callum McGregor, happy birthday to him, 29. It almost seems as if he's been around a lot longer than that, even though, Patrick, you rightly pointed out, he never broke into that Celtic first team until probably later on, as people expected after that loan deal down at Notts County. But again, he's going to have a big season wherever he plays for Celtic next year, because he's such a big character at the football club. So it's a happy birthday to Callum McGregor. One man we know is a big character and was one of those standout signings for Ange Postecoglou was Josip Juranovic. Natasha had that wee injury. He's came back. He played left back last night for Croatia. From what I watched, absolutely outstanding, and I think that was the first time Croatia had beaten France in their history.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. You just have to look at his stats. I was actually watching a different game. I was watching the Australia-Peru game last night. Obviously, no particular Celtic players to watch of note in there, but it was an interesting one as they both went for a World Cup spot, which went to penalties. And if anyone hasn't watched the penalty shootout, please do, for Redmayne and goal just alone. So I'm sidebarring here, but Australia brought on a goalkeeper in the last minute of extra time just for the penalty shootout. a guy who's never played outside Australia, 34 years old, had only played for Australia twice, just for the purpose of the penalty shootout to get them to the World Cup. And if you haven't watched it, then go ahead and do, because his antics are interesting. And to be fair, they worked, because Australia now have their World Cup place. So happy about that, because it will make Ange Postecoglou happy. So that is all good from me. In terms of our own players, obviously Juranovic playing in that Croatia game, great to see them get that victory against France. But even more so, looking at the stats from after it of Josip Juranovic, I've read somewhere that he had an 87% passing accuracy, won 100% of his tackles, and that's him playing over at left back as well. And we know Celtic have a slight left back issue at the moment. That's maybe an area we want to strengthen in. It's nice to know that Juranovic performed so well in that position, as we've seen ourselves throughout the season. Obviously, we think he's better at right back, so we want to utilise him there. But it's nice to see that not only domestically for us, but internationally for a team like Croatia, he's really standing out as a top quality player. That can only be encouraging for next season. And obviously we lost him through injury for the sort of latter stages of this season. So excited to see what another full pre-season for him can do, and another good run in the team, because I think he's a real quality addition to the squad.
Yeah, and again, Giakoumakis got his goal for Greece the other night, cracking header. Matt O'Reilly played well for the Danish under-21s. Everyone, maybe apart from even the Scotland players, I thought Ralston did okay at the weekend. McGregor as well. Everyone seems to be in a very good, strong end to the season, which bodes well again, as you say, Natasha, going back into that pre-season. Something Giakoumakis said after the game was he was frustrated. He scored in his debut for Greece and hadn't bagged a goal since, so I think that kind of put another line under his, incredible second half of the season. It was absolutely pivotal to Celtic going on to win the league. But as you say, Australia again, congratulations to Australia. They will be at the World Cup, unlike ourselves. I think that's 5 World Cups in a row Australia have qualified for. Obviously, Ange Postecoglou being one of the main men in between that. But the Wigan goalkeeper, as one of our commenters, Dermot's came in here to say. So, yeah, it's well worth a watch for that. It's always a risk, Patrick, bringing on a goalkeeper so late in a game like that. But he's came on, he's made the big save, and Australia's got the World Cup. And, it's nice, even though Tom Rogic wouldn't be our player, if he's out there, I'm sure we'll be tuning in to watch him, and we'll be wanting Australia to do well. We never know. We might have some more Aussies in our side going forward there. Just on Juranovic, Patrick, as Natasha says, the stats absolutely showed how good a quality player he is. This is the type of quality I think we need in this Celtic team if we're serious about the Champions League. Would you agree on that?
Totally. I think Juranovic has been one of our most consistent players. He's deputised for us at left back as well this season when, everyone was injured at left back. He's done really well. It's fair to say he's the best Croatian right back and the best Croatian left back. That's clearly the Croatian manager thinks so. And he's very, very reliable. Going forward, he's a bit limited because obviously he can't get that quick cross in his left foot.
Likes a penalty though.
He does. He can't sort of go forward. Whip crosses in and sort of cut it back with his left foot as quickly as he can on his right. But obviously he's not left-footed. But defensively solid either side. The 3-0 derby in February. He was absolutely phenomenal. It's hard to pick out a standout game because he's phenomenal in just about every game. But he's a phenomenal player. And if we could have that at the left side of the team, that would be brilliant as well. Because Taylor has been phenomenal, but behind him, there's no one really there that you can trust at the top level, in my opinion. Yeah,
you need somebody to push Greg Taylor, I think, as well. As I keep saying in this one, whether it's Liam Scales in that position, who we know is linked with that move to Aberdeen. Adam Montgomery's coming back from his loan deal at Aberdeen. Whether he's going to go back out on loan or in the plans, I don't know. Bolly Bolingoli, does it look as if he's probably going to be anywhere near the first team next season? So we don't really have anybody there that's going to push him. The probably person pushing Greg Taylor left back is going to be Juranovic, but you want to make sure that he's a stick on right back on that side. So yeah, absolutely. Greg Taylor, he's had an excellent season for Celtic, but I think it's only going to improve him as a player to bring somebody else in. Natasha, one Australia we know may well be linking up with Ange Postecoglou next season is Harry Kewell. What's your take on this? Obviously, we know all about him and his playing days at Liverpool, and Leeds. What's your take on this one?
Listen, again, for me, it comes down to if Ange Postecoglou wants someone in, be that on the pitch or in his backroom team, then I'm happy for him to get him. He's obviously looked at the squad team he has. He's been quite happy to go through the season with Kennedy. He's kept McManus about, must highly rate him. Strachan's obviously involved. And it's went well this season, it's worked. But if he's looking at that and thinking, right, next season I want to bring in someone else, maybe someone slightly more attacking minded. I'm not sure we ever really replaced Damien Duff's experience once he moved on. The defense, the setup's currently probably a little defense heavy. Maybe he's looking for someone who has a bit more of an attacking mind, and maybe that's what Harry Kewell's going to bring. But for whatever reason, he's decided that he would enhance the setup that he has. Then great. If he wants to bring him in, then I'm absolutely all for it. I think we're sort of recruiting in a couple of positions at the moment as well. I believe that we're looking for an analyst as well. So they are certainly, they are certainly looking to enhance and increase the backroom setup. I don't know if that means that anyone then leaves. I don't know if Harry Kewell's just another seat on the bench or he's taking someone's seat. Obviously, we've seen Gavin Strachan being linked with some moves away, although that's all went slightly quiet recently. Maybe he's coming in to replace him, or maybe he's just an addition. Either way, if Ange wants him in, if he thinks it's going to help him, then excellent, all for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Patrick, obviously people right away will go, his managerial record is Watford under 23s, Crawley Town, Notts County, Oldham, Barnet. For a lot of people, that's not, a record which justifies a post at Celtic. But, as Natasha says, if Ange Postecoglou wants this man in the door, Michael Nicholson and everyone else in the background at Celtic should be doing everything to make that happen, because, I think whatever Ange wants this season, we should be giving it to him. And an ally in there, I think a lot of people that you talk to in football will say that's important. Obviously, there was a lot of chat around the season 2021, around, Lennon not having his own backroom staff in, as we were led to believe, and then at the beginning of Ange's tenure, not bringing anybody over with him. But if he wants to add him in, I'm absolutely all for it.
Yeah, same here. Obviously we don't know a lot about Kewell's management. I've not watched Barnet or Watford under 21s recently, whenever he was in charge. But yeah, it'll be... he is Australian, isn't he? I'm right in saying he's Australian, Harry Kewell. Uh-huh. Yeah. So it'll be nice to have another Aussie. He's probably missing Tom Logic already. I know I am. But yeah, as Natasha says,
all
it's
I went on
strange.
about for 5 days, Natasha. I was in tears and everything. So sorry, Statham. Terrible.
I'm with you on that one, Patrick. I miss him every day too. We all do.
I know. What a player he was. What a player he is. But it'll be strange whether or not
don't get him started, like.
How about we just dedicate the next half hour to Tom Rogic? Forget what our sections got lined up, Patrick. We're just going to talk about Tom Rogic for the next half hour.
Quite right. What a half an hour that would be. But as you say, need to move on before I start crying. It's whether he replaces someone or whether he sort of comes in and adds to it. Because I know when he first came in, before McGregor was officially captain, he wanted sort of a group of leaders, a group of captains. Whether he wants the same with first team coaches, maybe not an assistant, but a group of people to sort of challenge him and stuff. Because obviously he likes the challenge of convincing people to his way of working. He likes winning people over. He likes having his back to the wall. And, he said in the final day of the season, he was complimenting everyone, saying thank you and stuff. He says, the backroom staff have been unbelievable. So he obviously likes the backroom staff that he's got at the moment. And if Harry Kewell does come in, which I think he probably will, then, yeah, I'm all for it as well. If Ange likes him, I like him.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've got some of our commentators coming in here. Dr. Nix in the comments is saying Harry has experience at an elite level club, at the highest levels, and one of the best Aussie players. I think that is valuable to help the young players in the squad. Natasha, that picks up what you were saying about Damien Duff. And Dermot again comes in our comments. I wonder if this is Desmond. If it is, by all means, send us a wee private message on here and we'll get that up there. But maybe not with that profile picture. But yeah, we're very welcome in the comments. And coming in as a coach, not a manager, brings winning the Champions League. Obviously won it with Liverpool in 2005, Natasha. These are important things to have in your your back them. No disrespect to John Kennedy, Gavin Strachan, and Stephen McManus there on that one, but cool Champions League winner. He's played at the very top level with Liverpool, was a cracking player at Leeds. That can only bode well for Celtic.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's not too dissimilar for some of the arguments we make about Joe Hart. He came into the squad as a very experienced player and has been monumentally important for the players on the pitch, a lot of the young players, the new backline, and sort of helping with that cohesion and making everyone work together only comes through the experience of playing at the highest level. And we've commended Joe Hart on that. And, Harry Kewell's not that old, Patrick might not remember who he is, but he's slightly younger than me. But Harry Kewell isn't that old. It's not that long ago that he was playing at that highest level. So that his experience of that is, again, like we've touched on, only going to be beneficial to the group of players that we have. And I think, yes, maybe he doesn't have the most glowing record in coaching and management and things like that. But a lot of these arguments were made about Ange Postecoglou as well. I know it's at a slightly different level, but Andrew's managing well and albeit in different jurisdictions. But a lot of the same arguments were made too. People rubbished his managerial record and he's come in and blown them all away. And I definitely back Harry Kewell to do the same thing.
Yeah, and again, same goes for guys like John Kennedy and Gavin Strachan that people had written off after season 2021. They turned that around and just spoken about how important they've been. I bumped into Stephen McManus a few weeks ago and got a good chat with him, and he's been absolutely fantastic. Worked under Ange with the other coaches at the club. And obviously, I think there's a really good relationship between himself and John Kennedy, having worked together, obviously, as players coming through the ranks at Celtic. But yeah, it's good to have these guys around the club, and it's good to have these top level experienced guys there also too. It can only help Celtic. Dermot's joined back in with the party. He says he's got Dermot's grey hair, but no money. Don't we all wish we had that kind of money at times? But there we go. So yeah, Harry Kewell, if it happens, I'm expecting it probably will happen. Another good appointment, I think, in the door, and I'm sure he will do well at Celtic. In terms of coaching, managerial, we see our old manager, Ronnie Deila, heading to Standard Liège. Patrick, me and you were on the bus just coming off the flight, going back in. We were talking to Sir Alex Ferguson's brother. Bit of a weird airport moment at Natasha. We met Martin Ferguson coming home on the flight yesterday. But I got a good chat with him about Fergie and all things currently at Manchester United just now. But yeah, Ronnie Deila's heading off to Belgium. I think we all Celtic fans wish him well. He's done an incredible job at New York City. He's leaving on top of the league. He's won the cup over there. I think that was New York's first major kind of trophy over there. So he's going to be heralded as a legend and a hero there for all time to come. And it'll be interesting to see how he gets on in Belgium. Were you surprised, Natasha, that he's went back to the continent to test himself again, or do you think he's still hungry for more success in a different country?
I think that's right. I think he's an ambitious guy. Again, not that old, relatively young manager. And I think he's ambitious, and I think he probably had a little bit of unfinished business back over European sort of way. Congratulations to him for everything he achieved in New York. That's fantastic. But we all know that MLS isn't the same sort of league as a lot of the European leagues. It just isn't, and it's not there yet. But he has done an incredible job regardless. But as a manager, you're going to want to test yourself against the top teams at the top level, and that does just mean coming back over to Europe. And the way things ended at Celtic, of course, they didn't end badly. We all wished him all the best. It just didn't quite work out at the time. And that's no saying that he wasn't a good manager and a good coach, because I really do think he is. So for him as well, there will be a sense of unfinished business back over here, and he'll want to come over and set that straight and test himself at this level again. And I think he'll do well. I think he will do well. And yeah, absolutely just wish him all the best with that. Another team that got a new manager today, of course, is the team that we will play at Celtic Park first this season. That'll be Blackburn. We're playing them on the 16th of July at Celtic Park. And their new manager, as of today, is, of course, John Dahl Thomason, who I think a lot of us will remember when he brought his Malmo side to Glasgow and gave a few very good lines at a press conference. So best of luck to him in his new job as well. And we'll see him at Celtic Park in July. Yeah,
I think he's already a bit of a cult, Patrick. I know you're a bit of a clever lad, as he says in that press conference. Yeah, we're going to see him rock up at Celtic Park, which will be quite good to see. I think he has already got that cult hero status. But yeah, that's an interesting one. In terms of Ronnie Deila, Patrick, I think, Standard Liège, they finished 14th last season if you remember, my only real memory of Standard Liège is ourselves playing them in a friendly at the start of season 1920. But yeah, on Standard Liège, Ronnie Dow's got a proven track record in Norway, Scotland, and America. I've been a successful football manager, much like Ange Postecoglou. Do you think? I personally think he can probably turn Standard Liège's fortunes around. What's your take on that? Obviously, Bruges has been the more kind of dominant side more recently in Belgium, but there's no reason why Ronnie can't go there and be a success like he's been in 3 countries already.
Yeah, I totally agree. There's sort of mixed memories from his time here. The second season wasn't really up to scratch, but he did win the league 2 times out of 2. He won the League Cup as well. He was basically cheated out of a treble in his first season. Europe was never his strong point, but domestically we were flying most of the time. He tried to implement a new brand of football, which a lot of the senior players didn't like. But if he's backed and if he's got the courage of his convictions, I'm sure he will be a successful manager, whether it be here, Norway, America. Could go to Australia, Japan, wherever he goes. I think he'll do a good job. I mean, you can't get much worse than 14th. I don't know how many places there are in the top division of Belgium, but I mean, if he gets backed with a bit of money, I don't know how much money Standard Liège have in comparison to the rest of the teams, but if he gets a bit of money, I'm sure he'll turn their fortunes around because he has a good coach. He's a modern manager.
Mm-hmm.
He was trying to get our fitness to a place where, when Brendan took over for us, he didn't have a lot of work to do. So, I think he'll do really, really well.
Yeah, and all the very best to him. I think we all want Ronnie Deila to do well wherever he goes. It's another team to look out for. As you said, Natasha, we've got more international teams that we're looking out for now, and now we've got more club teams to look out for now. Probably not a club team that we're going to be looking out for to do well as Kilmarnock, but Kerr McInroy has made that move there. Well, he's not. I mean,
I like the transition though. I like it. I don't like it.
I don't really have a lot of time for Kelly and Derek McInnes specifically, but Kerr McInroy's made the jump up the league. Obviously, I think it was at Ayr United last season. He's one of the guys that's departed Celtic to go to Kelly. For him, it's a step up. I think Kilmarnock even had a wee cheeky dig at Ayr United, saying he was coming to the best team in Ayrshire or something along those lines. But yeah, it's another one that's came through the ranks at Celtic. Listen, again, much like guys like Marcus Fraser and whatnot, he's going to be playing at a decent level at the top flight of Scottish football. It's another one out the door, and I'm probably sure there will be many more to come.
Yeah, absolutely. And listen, all the best to him as well, of course. And that's kind of the way it's going to work. A lot of the guys who are coming through our system aren't going to make the first team at Celtic. For one reason or another, maybe they don't have the ability. They're just not going to make Celtic level first team. They're not going to be in the first team squad. But that doesn't mean that these guys that we're bringing through and coaching and developing aren't going to have a career in football. And that's important. He's still going to make his living playing football every day at top tier of Scottish football. So absolutely, fair play to him. And it could be good for him. It doesn't mean that this is the highest level he'll reach. It just means it's his level at the moment. And it could be better for his development than continued loan spells here and there, staying at Celtic, to actually settle at a club and develop his career from there. He's still very young. Kilmarnock's where he'll be based at the moment. If he has, a good spell there, then who knows, and works hard. You never know. But yeah, a good move for him. And something that I think we'll probably see a lot more of is trying to trim down players that aren't going to, enhance the first team squad, that are sort of on the periphery. There's a whole list of those that we've talked about in previous shows, a long list of players who aren't going to be able to break into the team or the squad. And we do need to start looking to offload those. So yeah, another positive move in the transfer market.
Yeah. One move, somebody's just come in the comments that Tam Courts has departed Dundee United. I was quite interested to see where he's off to. He had a great season up there at Tannadice, so interested to see who gets that job. But obviously one of those players he had under his helm has been Benjamin Siegrist. So far we've heard that Celtic are in talks with him. And talks, probably means it may well happen. What's your thoughts on this one? Because I don't think, it's a position I've always said that it's why I think Joe Hart is our most important signing last summer, because it's a position I don't think we've got anybody else that we could play there and be as influential and important. Siegrist, a good signing for yourself?
If it happens, yeah, I'd be more than happy with that. I think is it Olawayemi? I'm probably not pronouncing that right. But,
Yep, that's right, Toby Olawayemi. Yep.
The 18, 19-year-old goalie. I know he's meant to be the future, 2-3 years' time, but he's obviously not the first choice backup just now. So I think in the meantime, we need to have a backup. Not only that, when he does eventually succeed Joe Hart, he's not going to have a backup either. So we need another goalkeeper, in my opinion. I don't know how you two feel, but I don't trust Barkas, Bain, Hazard at all.
Barkas
I don't think
he's
away, right
away.
enough. But apart from Hart, I don't trust anyone at the moment. So quite happy to get a good backup in. I'm hoping he's not one of these players a bit like Zaluska, who has really good games against Celtic, signs for us, and then is a bit rubbish. I like Zaluska, good penalty taker, but I'd be more than happy with Seacrest, and it will be interesting who replaces Tam Courts. I just checked there; he's left by mutual consent, so he's not technically signed for anyone yet. But interesting.
Looks as if he's going to depart. Talking of Polish goalkeepers, I've got my Arthur Boric t-shirt on today because Celtic are going to be playing in Big Arthur's testimonial. Obviously, our memories, Natasha, of Legia Warsaw aren't probably the best. And I remember being in Murrayfield that day and kind of looking over to my left-hand side and thinking, what's going on here? But, for Big Arthur, I think it's probably worth it to go out there and play in that game. Such an important player at Celtic. And it's, I think he's two favourite teams. So all the best to him. I'll be tuning into that game. I don't think I'd be risking the trip out to Poland, which is an absolutely lovely country. I've only been out there once. I've been in Warsaw Airport and whatnot. But I think I'll give that one a wee miss. I've just watched that one on the telly. But Seacrest, have you seen enough from Benjamin Seacrest to think that he could probably come in and be a decent backup? Obviously, Scott Bain's there, but don't think there's too many Celtic fans would place too much trust in Scott Bain if he was to come in.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think Seacrest would be a fantastic bit of business, to be honest. I think he's a really, really good goalkeeper. And if, like you touched on, if you look all over the pitch, one area that we really don't have a reliable deputy in is in goals. So if we can bring Seacrest in to do that, then I think that's fantastic business. If Seacrest is happy to come in and realise that he will be the deputy, he's not going to shift Joe Hart out of that spot. But yeah, I think it would be a good move for both parties. So absolutely, agree with that move. And yeah, just a word on Artur Boric as well. I think it's great that we're involved in this game. He was an absolutely brilliant servant to the club. We all do love Artur. And just because he loves us, I don't think that means the Legia Warsaw fans do. We all remember the Let Football Win debacle. So I'm not sure it'll be a particularly enjoyable trip for any of the fans that make it over. But no, it's great we're taking part in it. We all remember the last time we played Legia, that famous 3-0 win. A great game at Murrayfield that was. So maybe we could replicate that. I believe, though, that he is going to play the full match for Legia and not play any for Celtic. So interesting to see how that goes. But yeah, great for him. Great to be taking part in it. And look forward to watching it on TV from the safety of my own flat.
Yeah, absolutely. It'd be quite actually good to get some old former Celtic teammates in and just throw them in, maybe for safety precautions also. I think Patrick would love nothing better to see Tommy Gravenson pull on the hoops or something like that again back, or even Derek Riordan come back.
I'm sure Boric would love to see McGeady line up again, so maybe we can bring him back for a game.
I'd be an interesting one to see, and even Big McManus. I think he's one that transcends a bit of time there at Celtic. Obviously, first team coach, but a former teammate of Arthur at Celtic and John Kennedy. So yeah, absolutely all the best to Arthur, whatever he goes on to do, and his future career, whether it's coaching or whatever else. I think at one point, I don't hesitate to say I think he was one of the best goalkeepers at Europe under Gordon Strachan. Some top performances in the Champions League for Celtic and a great servant to the club while the time was there. And we'll see what happens on the Seacrest front. Just another couple of bits of transfers. Obviously, we've been monitoring centre halves. Itakura, one that people are, I think, just putting bits of the jigsaw together. Manchester City player, probably looking for a bit of time out permanently. Obviously, at Schalke last season. Be interesting to see if anything comes of that. Taylor Harwood, Bailey's is another player we'd like to have in that position. Spoken about left backs, spoken about the defensive central midfield, touched on Jota, and supposedly we're in the market for a striker. That's all from Anthony Joseph on Twitter. So we'll see what comes of that. But we'll move on to our kind of usual wee bit that we've been doing for the past few weeks in terms of Celtic and Europe. As I've said before, me and Patrick's trying to get it as close to recent times as possible so we can remember the game, because even the names of Tommy Gravidson, Paul Telfer and Evander Snow in Celtic jerseys is a bit too far gone by. I think me and him were just starting school about that time, so it's not easy to remember that far back for me and you, is it, Patrick? Especially when we're feeling a wee bit tender. So Celtic 18-19.
God, you guys make me feel so old.
No, well, you're not that old. I
No.
don't know what me and Patrick deem as old. It's getting a wee bit further on, isn't it? I think
Much
the
older
age
than
barrier
me.
thing is aye, definitely. Well, Celtic in Europe 18-19 is one I think we can remember. Qualifiers. It's nice to talk about qualifiers and not have to worry about them. I mean,
Isn't
we've got
it?
teams in here like Alish Cup, Rosenborg, our friends from Norway who we always seem to get drawn against, AEK Athens and Suduva. Patrick, we'll come to Alish Cup first. I think the standout from this game was obviously back-to-back 3-0 performances, but we get the glimpse of Dembele and Edward up top. But it was a fairly comfortable away game and home game at Celtic Park. You thought yourself, we're starting something new up top here. Here we go, and everything's going to be all right, and we'll strap ourselves in for the journey, and hopefully we'll get a few additions in as we go.
Yeah, the Celtic sort of teased us with that front two, didn't they? And then sold Dembele a month and a half later, or whatever it was. But comfortable games. I think the standout memory for me was watching Jozo Simunovic get sent off within about 5 minutes in the home game.
That's right.
And then I think Dembele scored a penalty that game as well. And I think Forrest had a cracking goal in the away leg. So I think I watched both those games in Barbados on a dodgy stream. But comfortable game. And I think that was the first of the 3 seasons where we had to play 4 qualifying rounds.
Yeah.
And it was obviously a mountain too high for us because we never managed to qualify in any of those 3 seasons. Which was a bit of a disappointment because I thought we could beat AEK Athens, but not to be. So, comfortable game.
Yeah, Forrest scored in both games. Again, to add to that, actually quite remarkable Champions League qualifying games record that he's got, scoring goals for Celtic. Get past Alish Cup, fine. We played very well against Rosenborg. And the next game, Edward scored twice. I thought we played very well, and we drew over there 0-0. So that was us Natasha through. Then it was on to Athens, and our friend who was out on loan to Utrecht was of course in goals for AEK Athens at the time. The biggest thing I remember about those games was the Boyata debacle. We hope we don't have any issues like that this season. I don't think we will. That was really, really poor, everything that went around. That obviously ended up coming back. He scored that header against Hamilton when he came back that Sunday. It was absolutely lashed a rain. I think if I remember right, he was getting booed by sections of the support. It felt, around that time, just felt very strange. I was through it at Tynecastle when we get beat through there and Kyle Lafferty scored. We looked as if we were in a bit of a precarious place at that time after the Athens result.
We were, and the signs were. I remember the signs were coming before it as well. It just wasn't quite right. And Brendan Rodgers has been shouting about it as well. He had been starting to make, noises that he wasn't happy and things weren't particularly gelling behind the scenes. And I think, as we were, coming up to this Athens game, there was a bit of a sense that this was a risky one. And Rodgers was saying in his pre-match, press conferences leading up to the game that we needed to strengthen. And it's just the same old sort of, Celtic gamble, isn't it? That the failure to speculate, to accumulate. As we've seen all too often, we gamble with that Champions League place. We try to get there by the narrowest of margins. And, in this AEK Athens tie, we came up 1 goal short. One more goal would have done it. And we didn't get it. And I think if Rodgers had been allowed to enhance the squad in the way that he'd wanted and the way that he'd sort of hinted at, then, you could have got past that Athens team. But again, we just didn't do it in time for these qualifiers. And it was all a bit of a mess, around it at the time. Like you were saying, Boyata was sort of refusing to play. Ayer was suspended for that second leg. So we had this defence of Simunovic and Henry. Edward was injured. We had to go with Lee Griffiths up top. So, we weren't far away. We were just a few players short. and Rodgers hadn't been able to bring them in. We just missed out on players like McGinn at the time, and it just wasn't going particularly well. And I think we could all see that AEK Athens result coming a mile off. And I think Rodgers included in that. And I think that probably was sort of beginning of the end for him. His frustration with the way that things were going was sort of, emphasised for all to see in that game. And yeah, we all know what happened following that.
Yeah, it's a kind of a point that you probably look at in the tenure of Brendan Rodgers, where, as you say there, it was the beginning and the end, Patrick. We saw the issue there with a particular player. We've obviously heard from Brendan himself about, looking to leave Celtic eventually at the end of that season. I mean, he's not getting back to the transfer market. It almost seemed as if he was trying to make a point to the board, and then, after the disappointment of that, we got to Firhill, we won in the League Cup, then we draw away to Seduva, and it was a game where you looked at, you scored in 3 minutes, Olivier Ntcham scored. But, it was a team we knew from our run to Seville in 2003. But, it was disappointing to go over there. Obviously, it's a two-legged affair. But I think, as Natasha said, it was probably a point where a lot of us as Celtic fans saw a real stumbling in Celtic. And, I think even now, you're probably quite glad that we didn't get John McGinn after watching him on Saturday. It just didn't seem as if everything was going great around the club, probably up until you beat Rangers in the derby game when Ntcham got that goal. But then again, the week after, you go to St Mirren on a Friday night and draw 0-0.
Yeah, and then I think a few weeks after that we lose 1-0 to Kelly as well. And I think after Kelly was the real turning point, because I think you scaled a few teams just after that. You get the 1-0 win against Rosenborg at home, which I'm sure we'll come on to talk about. But it was a very strange start. I think that was the worst start to the season in like decades. We missed out on McGinn by something like £200,000, which at the time was very pathetic. Lustig, we'd seen the season before that Lustig was on his way out. He blatantly wasn't good enough. In certain SPFL games, never mind Europe. I think we're linked with Castagna, but I think we're maybe priced out of that. I think they were wanting about 8 million or something. Yep. So that never went through. And then when you look at who we actually signed, if you get Benkovic in earlier on loan, you maybe stand a chance against Athens. But again, last minute loan. We sign Edward, but then we sell Dembele, and then Edward gets injured. So a bit of bad luck. But you're hoping to sort of keep your best players as well. So it was another quiet transfer window, which was the same as the summer before. So if you don't strengthen in 2 windows in a row, you're shooting yourself in the foot, and then you go on a bit of a downward spiral after that, don't you? So very disappointing start to the season that season, and thank God we got someone like Seduva in that playoff game, or else we might have not get any European competition at all.
When we came into that AEK game, the only players that we'd actually signed before that were Edward and Scott Bain, who'd both been on loan the previous season. So, that is not backing the manager to go on and achieve what he needs to in Europe. The squad actually wasn't enhanced at all because those 2 players were already there. We were just securing them on a permanent. So you can understand why Rodgers was making the noises he was to the press.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, we're playing Russian roulette, waiting until the last, and it didn't work out. It was the first season under Brendan Rodgers. We hadn't qualified for the Champions League. It showed the gap probably that came to be afterwards, and that we didn't qualify for the Champions League up until winning the league this season. We're going to be back in it, which is some gap for a club like Celtic. Obviously, we do take these gaps. It's been seen it happen those 2 seasons under Ronnie Dyla. We bounced back 2 years after it. Then we were back in the Europa League. But then we get to the opening game. We get past Seduva at Celtic Park. The opening game, Natasha, one name I'm going to say to you, we're talking about strength in the squad, Yusuf Malimbu. This was the guy that we brought in. But we talked about strength in the squad. This is the best we could come up with. A man, I think we took him from Kilmarnock actually. It really just showed a lack of ambition to really do anything. We went up in 2 minutes, might have even been a minute, and in Salzburg in Austria, and we got a doing 3-1.
Yeah, not great. Not that there really isn't much to say to that. I think if you look at that Malimba signing, I mean, not only does it show like sort of a lack of ambition, in terms of, that's the sort of quality you think is acceptable at the club. It shows a bit of a lack of imagination as well, that in that position, that is the best player you could come up with, given all our extensive scouting of all the various markets. That was the best that we could come up with. Is particularly disappointing. And yeah, don't get me wrong, I think that the Scottish market is a good one for us to utilise. I think that our transfer, approach does have to have a sort of double prong in that, yes, we do look to take some of the better players in the league who we think can enhance the squad, as well as look at, further afield, Europe, Japan, Australia for talent too. So there's nothing against taking some of the better players from the Scottish market. He just wasn't really one of them that was ever going to fit, was he? And didn't go particularly well.
No, not at all. We'll try and whiz through some of these because there's not a lot of great highlights in it. There's one really decent highlight in it, but the one probably, I went over to Leipzig for the game, flew into Berlin with my cousin Gary. We got the bus down, had a bit of disaster, smashed my phone, missed the bus back up the road to Berlin. Blah blah blah. That was my real disaster Celtic trip after watching us get gubbed 2-0 over there. 2 sucker punches again, half an hour. Did okay. They scored 31, 35 minutes and the game's killed. But Patrick, talked about strengthening the squad. The starting 11 lineup that night was Craig Gordon in goals. Backfield that included Jojo Simonovic, Kieran Tierney, Christian Gamboa and Dedrick Boyata. And then working our way through the rest of the team, Olivier Ncham, Ryan Christie, Abu Kouassi, Lewis Morgan, Callum McGregor, Nodson Edward. A bit of a mixed bag for a Celtic team. Obviously, we go over here, we get beat 2-0, we come back. It's kind of the turning point for Ryan Christie is that game at Murrayfield, and he scores at the absolute cracker against Hearts. But I remember, looking at him in Germany and thinking, what is this? Why are we persistent here? And Lewis Morgan too, another poor result. But on the flip side, bit of positivity. We beat Leipzig obviously 2-1 at Celtic Park, which is a really good night at Celtic Park.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously we've seen what they've went on to achieve as a club, and that proved, I think, in that game that we can go up against top teams at Celtic Park and do the business and get a win.
Yeah, it was definitely a mixed bag of a season. You get lucky and you get unlucky. I think, you get to the 60th minute, 1-0 up against Salzburg away. You think they're doing pretty well, but then you totally collapse. I mean, I end up 3-1 by the 85th minute or something. And of course, not to forget, we signed Morgan that window and we brought back Izagiri, which was another phenomenal signing that summer, which, how could I forget that one, really? A starring performance against Valencia in February. Unbelievable.
You were waiting Big Effie rocking back up that season, I think.
Aye. Thank God we never had any more injuries in defence. My God. The lineups in that Leipzig and Salzburg away games, they were terrible. And it's a miracle we won the league that season, actually, the teams that we fielded in some parts of it. But we went on, we kicked on domestically, but last minute against Rosenborg at home, and then I think we scored with about 15 minutes to go. Rosenborg away, beat home and away by Salzburg, beat away by Leipzig, and then you have that really good game, 2-1 against Leipzig, and you can see about, I think it's something like 12 minutes to go or something. You think, oh, here we go again. We've let it slip again, and then it's something like 14 seconds for kick-off. We go up, and Edward taps it in, and as you say, it got to the stage where we're starting to boo Kouassi in League Cup semi-finals against Hearts. He comes off, he tries to run off an ACL injury or something, and we end up bringing on Ryan Christie, and he totally rejuvenates our season right up until he gets injured against, I think it's Aberdeen in April in the semi-final. But very much a mixed bag that season. Yeah,
that was the final. He got injured, and that was, I think, that bad eye injury he got in that final that we won 1-0. I think he actually might have scored in that final. But yeah, they went on to really kick on for the rest of that season. Ryan Christie, as you say, that kind of it sparked our season. 5-0 away to Dundee, 5-0 at home to Hearts, and we kicked on and we get that Leipzig result. You've covered Rosenborg there. Natasha, we got through by the skin of our teeth the last 32 of the competition because Rosenborg did us a turn. They get the result against Salzburg that they did. We needed to go for the second place, and we got drawn against the Valencia. I made the trip over to the Messiah. I don't know if you went over there.
Yep.
The weather was nice. The atmosphere was decent. We were up in the top of that stadium. Bit bizarre, but it is the middle of the housing scheme and all that. The police weren't so very nice with us, you could say. Probably a wee bit more touchy that I've been following Celtic away in Europe, especially the walk up with the ground.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we'd sold the jersey in the home game at Celtic Park 2-0. We went over to Messiah. Brendan Rodgers did a chat at my university on the Monday. I'd spoken to him just as he was leaving, and I told him I was going to say enjoy the game. It was the last time I seen him because he disappeared the next week down the road to Leicester. We played fairly okay up until a point in the Messiah, and that was us again. Didn't take our chances. I think Roderick had a big chance over there, and that was us out in our backside in Europe. And then we know the story that happens after that.
Yeah, I mean, like you say, it was a relatively good trip. Nice city, nice place, nice weather. I'm sure plenty of people remember a good night in the Valencia St Patrick's Supporters Club. That was a good one.
We had a great night after the game, by the way.
Fantastic.
I can't remember what the name of the pub was. It was great though.
It's a good place, so shout out to Valencia St Patrick's Supporters Club for that one. Great, but yeah, like you say, the game itself, I mean, we were already done before we got there, having lost in the first leg like we did. And it was never going to get any easier, conceding another early red card like we so often do by shooting ourselves in the foot in Europe. And it was Toljan, wasn't it? Jeremy Toljan, 2 yellows very quickly for the same
part of the squad.
Yeah, the same sort of thing, just a stupid pullback, I think, got his second one. And there you are again. That's the sort of game done and dusted. And I think, to be honest, that the red card wasn't the reason we got beat. We'd already sold it, like you said, in the first leg, and that red card was really the final nail in the coffin. And, we looked all right as well, actually, even once we went down to 10. And we came out very attacking. I think we went that 3-4-3, playing okay. And when you look at the match stats, like I did just before we came on, because we knew we were talking about it, they had 15 shots on goal. To only concede 1 with 10 men suggests that we, defended relatively well, considering the position we found ourselves in. But on the flip side, we had 14 shots on goal, and we didn't score. So that's not clinical enough to get you through a European tie. And yeah, the wait for a knockout victory continued.
Yeah, wait for a knockout victory continues. It was with a big chance. I just looked back there. I think it was a header. It was on the volley or something. I can't mind. But yeah, it was a big chance actually we had. But as you say, I think Scott Bainat's had one of his better performances in a Celtic jersey, if I remember that night and the heat. But yeah, that was us again, and we know the story of the season. After that, obviously Brendan Rodgers departs the club. Neil Lennon comes in to take us at Tynecastle, and we go on to get the league and the treble in the bag under Neil Lennon. But yeah, an interesting season for Celtic in Europe, not with a lot of great highs in it. It's been one of our probably most recent disappointing ones, like there has been. And as you say, the wait for that knockout tie victory continues. Maybe this season, we never know.
Ange but out.
Yeah, well, I don't think you'd have some of those disasters under Ange Postecoglou, but hey ho. Thanks to everyone for tuning in. As always, I see that Danielle's not keeping too well in the comments, so I think everyone at Axon wishes her all the best, and she's one of our usual contributors. Thanks to everybody that's watched. If you have watched the video, please give us a like. If you haven't already, please do subscribe to the channel, and thank you to Natasha and Patrick